Welcome back to Model Talk. My name is Katerina.
And I'm Candace.
And today's special guest is Brittany Martinez.
And she has a message for aspiring models who want to be more proactive in their career.
Check it out.
Brittany, you were Elle Girl Magazine's model contest winner. Now, you won this from out of 5,000 entries. So what was that like?
At the time, I lived in Idaho, actually.
Oh,
I know we were just
that.
talking about living in Texas.
I thought that you were in Texas. You're in Idaho.
So
okay.
I was in Texas in junior high and high school, and then halfway through high school, I moved to Idaho.
Okay, got it.
And then I went to college in Dallas. But yeah, so I wanted to get out there and model as much as possible. Obviously, in Idaho, aside from like some candle companies and other little things, there wasn't much to do. So this is terrible, but during school, I would apply online the model searches and apply to different things just to travel and get out of school and go model. So I applied to Elle Girl, and I didn't know how big of a deal it was in Europe mostly. And yeah, I went out there and I shot an editorial for Clairol and for Modern Salon, and it was so much fun. It was a great time in New York.
So you won, and then you got to fly to New York from Idaho.
Yeah.
Oh,
I want to get out of school
and get out of Idaho.
Exactly.
So you were really proactive then, because you were like going online, looking for model searches, doing a lot on your own. Did you have an agency in Idaho, or you were just doing this
I
on
did
your own?
have an agency, but there was only one agency in Idaho. So I was doing a lot of it just proactively because I've just always loved doing that.
Oh, so it's awesome, because I know a lot of people just kind of like fall into the business. And so that wasn't the case with you, that you really wanted to become a model from what age?
No, actually, I did fall into it. This model was the top model in Dallas, and she was like, you should really pursue modeling. And I had braces and a lisp, and like, I never thought of myself as a model.
Oh, so you weren't a model yet then when she was saying this?
No. And so she said I should enter this model search for Cosmo Girl, and then I was top 12 out of 20,000. So then...
Top 12 out of 20,000.
Yeah.
Now, did somebody take your photos, or did you just put in snapshots?
I think she took some photos for fun, and I had the really long hair to my hips, and I wish I could find those photos, but I cannot.
So then what happened?
So I flew to New York for that, and then I won a scholarship for acting, because at the time I wanted to do acting, not modeling. And yeah, I got offered representation, but my parents said to stay in school, so I couldn't pursue it until after high school.
Okay, that was the deal with your parents.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And so then since then, now your career has really taken off. Tell me about some of the campaigns that you've done.
Oh man, I have a campaign coming out in Ulta Beauty next month. I have a couple nationwide campaigns coming out, and then I have the back cover right now of a magazine, and it's been really cool because Taylor Swift's been on the cover, and Selena Gomez, and I worked with Taylor Swift a couple years ago and really enjoyed her. So it's cool. Like, I was in Hawaii last week and just flipped it over. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so cool.
So were you in Hawaii working, or just for your own?
Just for fun, for the 4th of July.
So when did you decide to make the big move to LA to really get out here and do it?
Well, my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, we were the only two people in our school in Dallas that really wanted to pursue entertainment. So it kind of worked out because we were at a liberal arts school, but we both wanted to move to LA. And he moved out here because the casting director for Glee heard him sing and signed him to William Morris. And then I moved out 9 months later and signed with LA Models and CESD. And I thought, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to stay here and do this.
Well then, okay, so tell us, what is it like to have an average day here as a model in Los Angeles, pounding the pavement, going to your castings? Tell us what that's like.
Oh man, I think it depends on the day. Like last Thursday night, I got an email about 11 p.m. and this woman I had shot a campaign for was like, hey, a model flaked tomorrow. Can you come at 8 a.m.? And so she sent me the contract, and it paid really well. I don't know why the model flaked.
Like, what would you say to young models that are trying to get into the business now? Is it, be really the best version of yourself, or try to keep up with popular trends, or?
As a model, I've heard from photographers I've worked with who have shot girls that ended up in Victoria's Secret or Sports Illustrated. They say, they're not even necessarily who you would look at and decide they would be the best model. But on set, these girls are carrying your camera bag. They're just so nice. And I was talking to my friend who was a photographer a couple weeks ago about this. He was like, back in the 90s and early 2000s, like you had like Naomi Campbell, who's so striking, but it was more of a kind of like different attitude than models have now. And I think if you do good to others, good things will happen to you. And I've noticed a lot of the models that are doing well right now, people look up to them too. It's not like you're just like a pretty face anymore. Like you're actually doing a lot for society and trying to make a difference as well.
I agree. I think that there's more of a move towards caring and gratitude, and also giving back. And even in the modeling world too, I see so many models that are involved. We had a model here that was the other day when she was talking about charity, and that she actually had desks made for children in Africa because they were studying on the floor. You know, so to see that a model is so much more than just a pretty face. You know, speaking
so sweet.
Speaking of digital media, I want to talk about social media, because I actually saw a quote of yours and I want you to explain it. I have a love-hate relationship with social media. Explain that to me.
So I started building my followers because a couple of years ago, my agent was like, "Oh, you don't have enough followers. I can't get you in the room." I think I had like 1,000 followers. I was like, man, like then I'll get more. And so I started building my following, and I remember I would do like everything 2 years ago, like follow and unfollow. And I'd be in Australia, my little brother would be making fun of me. He's like, why are you being that person? But I started building my social media, and I love it because I got my honeymoon free. It's nice. It's like you can reach everyone, the top photographers, the top brands, the top makeup artists that you'd never usually be able to reach unless your agent really wanted you to. On your own, which is really nice.
When you're talking about young models, and you were saying the importance of kind of what you did was branding yourself, so how would you suggest to them that they should brand themselves out in social media today?
I think you want to pick who your target audience is and what you want to be, and just go for that. Like when I started out getting more followers, I would look at models that looked similar to me or like had brown hair and big lips. And I'm like, okay, their followers like them for their looks, so maybe they'll like me. But then I think it's more than that. And I haven't worked as hard on my social media as I need to, because I've been working with this company. But I think it's important to find out who you are and just find your niche and just like stick with it.
Right, right. Well, you had mentioned also your agent, and I was thinking, does your agent try to, how much influence does social media have today? Because what I noticed, I was doing some research on another model, and I noticed on her page for her agency, they also had her social media numbers, which surprised me, because when I was doing it, it wasn't that way.
Right.
And the higher the number, do you think it affects, you know, getting that job over somebody else when actually you would have been better at that job, but they had the higher social media numbers?
It depends. The LA market is really kind of Instagram obsessed.
Right.
And I do know a lot of girls that have like 400,000 and above, and they don't even go to castings. They just get booked. So I think it definitely makes a difference. And even if I go to a casting for Target or Starbucks, like a commercial, I have to put my Instagram, and it's like,
you do.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone is seeing my page that doesn't know what Target is. So I'm not really sure why they do that. But I do know when I was looking into my company, I was looking at, okay, who has a lot of followers, but in this location? Like, what markets are we trying to hit? But ultimately, I'd want to book the best person for the job. I don't really care. And I think that the best person for the job should be booked, but I do understand from a marketing perspective why that's appealing.
Right, absolutely. You had said also, I was reading, and you said that you love modeling because it's allowed you to travel all over the world and work with great people, and also you love so much to be part of a team.
Yes.
And then I was wondering, what other ways do you think that modeling has enriched your life?
I think it's helped a lot because you do get to travel. So you have a very open mind about everything in the world because you've seen so many parts.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
So we've talked about so many of the positives in the industry. I know we wanted to talk about this because I just think it's so funny, but let's touch on some of the things that have been negatives or some things that you didn't find so interesting or good about the modeling industry?
Yeah, anything specific, just let me know.
So you were telling me about some of the negatives with somebody like actually disputing your height and getting mad at you?
Yes, so that was before I finaled for Cosmo Girl. So I was like 14. And I went to the doctor that day and the doctor was like, you're 5'7". And now I'm 5'8.5", but I was 14. So the doctor told me I was 5'7". So then I go to meet this agent that this woman that told me I should model set up. She's like, you have to meet this agency. And so I meet him and he was kind of dismissive and he's like, okay. And then he sees my photos. He's like, oh, those are actually you. And I was like,
excuse me?
I guess. Like, I mean, yeah. Like, I just didn't really care. But I remember he went and measured me and he's like, you're 5'6 3/4. And he was like, why would you lie and tell me you're 5'7"?
No.
I'm 14. I was like, well, the doctor told me this morning I was 5'7", and he's like, doctors lie. I was like, what? But he ended up finding me on Instagram a few years later. He's like, oh, I'd love to sign you. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it's like, you don't even remember.
He didn't know that it was you.
I don't think so. Because I had braces at the time and I was a little shorter and I don't think so. Otherwise, that's kind of weird.
So obviously you didn't go with him though.
No, I went with the rival agency.
Okay, good. Because
Yeah.
I was about to say, it's like there has to be such a great synergy between your booker in your agency and you.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, you want to have someone who really believes in you and really pushes you, but you also, I know one of my friends, this really cute blonde girl, and she's like, I want to model for PacSun and for Hurley. And we were with the same agent. He's like, no, you're not tan enough. She would go get a tan the next day, come back, I want to model for them. And he would like make all these excuses. Finally, he's like, fine, like you can go to a casting. So I carpooled with her to the casting and she ended up booking a job for Hurley. And I think it's just about being persistent and communicating and finding out before you sign with an agency who their big clients are and who you want to be with. And you want to see if you guys have the same kind of envision of where you want to be.
The same vibe.
Yes.
Yeah. So you think it's like 50% your agent and your booker and then 50% you?
I think it has to be 80% you.
Okay, good.
Like I'm always like testing with different photographers that shoot big campaigns and making relationships and then sending them to my agent to be like aware, like here's what I'm doing. And then they like get excited and start pushing you more. So I think you have to really push instead of waiting around like a lot of people do.
So you're like super proactive.
Yes.
And that you don't wait for them to call you on the phone and say, oh, you know, I want you to test shoot with this person or that person.
No,
you do it,
I don't
bring it
always
to
like
them.
who they recommend too. I'm very picky. And I want to make sure like they're good people that I'm working with, and I work with a lot of the same people over and over that we just get each other, so it's fun.
Oh, awesome. And then clients too. I would assume like you build relationships with them and they just want to work with you. Because like you said, a lot of times when it comes down to two people, you may work with the person that you know better or that you know you're going to go along with and it's not a problem on set.
I actually am on hold for a huge company next week because the photographer I shot with, I've shot with a couple times. And I paid the photographer to shoot at first because photographers put in a lot of work.
Yeah,
and like
no,
you want to
absolutely.
pay them. And they shoot like Gigi Hadid and Adriana Lima and all these people. And we've ended up being really good friends. So then they like will call me and be like, hey, we have a booking. Can we go through your agent? We want to like send you this client. So it's like, I feel like when you respect someone's work, they respect you too. And when you guys get along well, you can help each other get jobs, which is really nice.
And then also, I found this out about you. I just thought it was so quirky, yet interesting, and yet I loved it, that you're a black belt in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
I can't get this. I cannot wrap my head around
I told
this.
you, I was a tomboy. I don't want to be a model.
Seriously, like how long did you have to study to become a black belt? And then does it help in modeling? Do you use it? I mean, like, I just can't, like, how do you interweave all this together?
Oh, man. I got my black belt pretty fast. It took me 4 years, but we were training like 4 hours a day. We like did it because we were training for the Junior Olympics. And I think it's helped a lot with modeling in general because it gives you a very strong sense of discipline. So you wake up and even if you don't want to do something, you do it because you know it's good for you. So it gives you a great sense of prudence. And also like I've gotten the body double for Jessica Alba and different people because I can do... it wasn't even martial arts for that, but because I can do a lot of things that are more athletic that come from strength from martial arts.
I remember when I was reading and you had said to someone that they asked you, what is your, average day? I was so interested because a lot of people that are models, especially in Los Angeles, will say, and I'm sure you do this as well, I watched what I was eating and I counted my carbs and I worked out and I went to the gym. And you said, I start every day. I like to pray in the morning, and I also like to read books. I was so shocked because, seriously, who will pick up a book today? It was amazing to me. And I just thought it was so interesting. Why is that so important to you that you take the time out of each day to pray / meditate and read?
Oh, it starts your day with so much peace. Mm-hmm. There's something much bigger than you. So I always feel very peaceful and very grounded, very focused, and I'm not caught up on my phone in the morning. It's people shouldn't be emailing you at 7 a.m. They're probably not. Why are you so obsessed with what they're doing? You need to start your day for you and try to be the best person you can be. And a lot of books out there are so helpful. I was reading this book that actually Steve Harvey recommended called The Magic of Thinking Big. And it was saying how a lot of people that apply for a job will all apply for the cheaper paying job because they're oh, this is easier for me to get. But then when you look at the people applying for the higher paying job, there's almost no applications. So it's you'd have a better chance thinking big and going for the bigger job because you have less competition, but most people don't think like that. They think this is all I can do. So I think reading really helps expand your mind and it helps you mentally. So many people I love always are you need to read. I love Gary Vaynerchuk and Tony Robbins, and they're always about reading and bettering yourself. So, yeah.
Brittany, thank you so much for
thank you so much for having me.
Fun today. I'm so glad you came by.
Thank you so much for having me.
On the next episode of Models Talk, Julia Leskova discusses why modeling forced her to become responsible at a young age.